Hey everybody, Questwise here. Today we're going to talk about riffs. Yeah. And we're going to talk about my favorite aspect of riffs. Now, riffs is great because it's not a one-trick pony. There are a billion different adventures that you can play with this game because of its nature, because of its sort of post-apocalyptic slash magic inclusive slash science inclusive. Riffs has got everything. So, but I want to talk to you today a little bit about one of my favorite aspects of riffs and of a riffs campaign that I like to run. Now, there's lots of great campaigns to do. You can play as a glitter boy and fight against the coalition states with massive robotic combat, power armored suits, mega damage weapons, explosions, very military, fighting against demon incursions. You can also play as the coalition, which is my second favorite way to play riffs, and I'll do a whole nother video on that, on playing the coalition from their sort of point of view. But today I want to talk about my most favorite version, or most favorite way to play riffs, and that's to play with the adventurers and scholars, OCCs, or occupational character classes. Now, these are the classes that everybody sort of seems to overlook when they look at riffs. So when you look at riffs, there's so many other options to choose, like full conversion bionics, there's magic users, there's psionics, there's all sorts of great things to run, and they're very powerful, and they make for some great stories. But a lot of times when people look at riffs, they tend to overlook the adventurers and scholars section. And I think it's one of my favorite ways to play. These are going to be your average, ordinary, everyday people in the riffs universe. These are going to be people who have if they have any cybernetics whatsoever, any kind of bodily enhancements, they're going to be very minor for the most part. If they have any psychic abilities, they're probably going to be very minor. You might have one or two, just by the luck of character creation, and sort of a strange part of your background is that you started to exhibit, began to exhibit some psychic abilities, and so they're going to be kind of minor in that same way as well too. But you're going to be playing things like the body fixer, which is the doctor, the medical doctor of the riffs universe. You're going to be playing people like the city rat. And I love playing in Chi-Town and the burbs because it's such a big, metropolis area of so many adventure ideas. You're going to be playing the city rat, which is a person who lives in the burbs. They live just sort of in the city, and they're just average, everyday, ordinary people. They could be everything from as simple as just people living, trying to scraping to get by. They could be people who incite riots against the coalition states. They could be secret spies of the coalition trying to gain some sort of level of respect from the coalition by rooting out DBs or dimensional beings or maybe magic users. They could be on the darker side. They could be drug dealers. They could be black market racketeers. They could be a lot of different things. And there's the operator, who's the person who can fix basically anything and create a multitude of different things, as well as sort of hacking into computer systems and creating a multitude of mechanical ideas. There's the rogue scholar and the rogue scientist, kind of similar. Rogue scholar is he's the sort of person who wants to sort of bring back the lost knowledge of the pre-riffs era, as well as sort of teach the untaught masses things like how to read and how to be smart. And he's sort of he kind of reminds me of that class sort of reminds me a secular version of Martin Luther, and the fact that he wanted to break the power of the Catholic Church and give the knowledge back to the common person. So think of it as being a person who's trying to break the power of the coalition and give knowledge of reading and understanding and pre-riffs idea of freedoms to the people who are being suppressed by the coalition. The rogue scientist, same kind of way. He's trying to understand the scientific reasons behind what has happened during Rift's Earth. He wants to understand all these new sorts of creatures that have now invaded the planet. They're now setting up shop. He wants to understand sort of the new flora and fauna, the way the Earth has changed, and he's more of a scientific type thing. And then both of these can be sort of like adventure type, Indiana Jones type characters to kind of go out there and search for these things. There's also the Vagabond. The Vagabond's sort of just like your typical adventurer. He's not a city rat. He might not live in a city. He might not have a home at all. He likes to wander. He might be kind of gypsy-esque, bohemian-esque kind of a character where he's simply going out and he's trying new things and learning new things and gets caught up in adventure and different dangers and stuff in the world. And then there's the Wilderness Scout. Wilderness Scout, think of him as being sort of the ranger of the fantasy ranger idea of in Rift's Earth now. He's the guy who lives in the outskirts of the cities or in the forests, and he's the kind of person that will get you from point A to point B, from one town to another town, safely, because of all the craziness that's happening in Rift's Earth. Why do I like to play this type of a game? It's very kind of a low-powered version of Rifts. There's going to be mega damage weapons, but these kind of characters are not going to go toe-to-toe with like a UAR-1 Coalition Enforcer giant robot. It's not going to happen. You're going to be obliterated within seconds. But there, in Chi-Town itself, in Chicago, or the new Chicago, as it were, the seat of the Coalition strength and power, where the Emperor lives and stuff, and all the burbs, the suburbs that have grown up around it and stuff, sort of everywhere from sort of maybe the more wealthier type of people all the way down to just these little huts in small towns and farms and areas that the Coalition has sort of built up. It's kind of the center of power for the Coalition. There's so many great stories to be told here. There's stories of intrigue, there's stories of racketeering, there's stories of espionage. There's all sorts of great stories to tell here, and they're not stories that you're going to want to be telling by just simply bashing in the door and blowing stuff up. Bringing a glitter boy into the burbs and just starting to blast things with your boom gun, your sonic cannon, is just not going to. It's going to solve problems rather quickly, but it's not going to create for a very dramatic game. It's going to be quickly over as well. You're not going to go toe-to-toe to demons and other types of things, but you may encounter those type things. You might find yourself in the presence of a magic user or a ley line walker or a mind melter, something like that. And those are going to create your story seeds and all sorts of great things. Some ideas that I've come up with, and I'm actually working on building a campaign right now writing a campaign idea that takes place primarily in the burbs and maybe in the ruins of old Chicago. Now, and this is all stuff you can find in the Rift's Ultimate Edition of the game. You read the background history and stuff. It talks all about Chi-Town, and it talks about the ruins of old Chicago. So if you're wondering what I'm talking about there, check this out. Just go in there and read that section there. I've always been a fan of history. I've always been a fan of lost history and of history that's secret or archaic in nature. And so I want to build a sort of campaign around that idea. I want to build a campaign where the characters will be going out into the ruins of old Chicago, which is just destroyed. It's a nexus of ley lines and rifts and all sorts of crazy stuff. But they're searching for lost artifacts, pre-Rift's Earth artifacts. And they want to try to figure out what happened to Earth that sparked the Rift's universe. And in addition to that, I want to have the characters sort of be involved in what it's like to live under Coalition rule. I want them to kind of understand that the oppressiveness of the Coalition and what it's like to be different. Now, most of the characters will probably be human. They'll probably be non-magic users. They'll probably be non-psychics. And so I want them to sort of see from a sort of outside perspective that the Coalition is protecting them because they're human, or they believe they're protecting them because they're human from these other beings, from magic users, from dimensional beings, or DBs from other other planes, and the sort of violence and prejudice that they have against these creatures. And I want the characters to sort of figure that out for themselves. Is the Coalition right? Is the Coalition correct in thinking that creatures that use magic and creatures that are from other dimensions, are they evil simply because of those aspects? Or are the characters coming to the conclusion that, you know, everybody should have a chance in the world, and everybody, that this isn't, they weren't brought here because they wanted to be here, they kind of came because by accident, and the whole thing with the rifts, and so they're struggling to figure out their way in life just as much as the people who are native to the earth as well too. Couple of different ideas for running adventures. If that's just my campaign idea, but a couple of other ideas for running adventures in rifts would be maybe infiltrating a coalition state's facility in order to get medical supplies for people who are sick inside the burbs. Protecting or hiding a newly arrived DB who has just recently arrived in Chi-Town and or the burbs looking for solace, trying to find a safe place to hide, and came to the wrong spot, and so the characters would then try to protect them from the coalition states. Again, this is part of my other thing, or exploring the ruins of old Chicago. Now, the opposite of that is that if maybe the characters want to work for the coalition, and they're sort of like doing it on their own volition, going out and seeking out DBs and seeking out magic users and psychics and stuff, and turning them over to the coalition troops, in hopes that the coalition will recognize them and maybe advance them in status or give them money or make their lives a little bit easier. Now, chances are that probably won't happen. They'll probably just take them and be like, you know, good work, citizen, move along. But it might be that idea that the characters are trying to elevate their sort of standard of living by helping the coalition and working with them. The next one would be escorting a VIP, somebody maybe who, you know, a wealthy family whose child maybe has exhibited some magical talents, and they're trying to get out of the burbs or try to get out of Chi-Town, and they've hired the characters to help them get the hell out of there, get away from the area and get them safely away from the coalition. One of the other things that kind of fascinates me as well is trying to find the secret location of the Chi-Town library, the mythic library that holds all these tomes and articles about pre-Rifts Earth that the coalition are hiding from the people, trying to keep that secret from the normal people. So it'd be interesting to try to infiltrate Chi-Town and try to find out where that location of that library actually really is. And especially if you read in the Ultimate Edition, they actually tell the people that there was a thing that happened, this battle, the thing went on, and the library was completely destroyed. It's gone now, but that it's secretly still hidden there, and they told people that it was destroyed with hopes that nobody would come looking for it again. And then the big one again, working for or against the coalition states. Do you want to be characters who are inciting riots against the coalition, try to bring down rise up the masses of the people against the coalition, try to bring them down? Or just the opposite? Are you trying to sort of elevate your status in life and maybe even work for the coalition, become a coalition officer or a dead boy, a grunt in the army, and trying to get recognized by doing those kinds of things? So like I said, I'll do a separate video on my second favorite way to play Rifts, and that's playing as the coalition. There's such a great wealth of stuff of playing the coalition, going out and fighting demon incursions and rooting out magic users and trying to shut down nexus points and ley lines where the rifts actually pop up. But I think there's a real wealth of excitement and adventure when you're playing somebody, an adventurer or a scholar, who doesn't have a ton of special abilities. You're relying a lot on your skills, and you're relying a lot on role playing, because you're going to be, if you have a great game master, a game master is going to challenge you. He's not out to try to destroy you, but a good game master is going to be there to try and challenge you. So he's going to put situations in your way that you, as a normal person, as just a normal adventurer in a giant, horrible, dangerous Rifts universe, are not going to be able to face. And so it comes down to you as a player and as a character, using your character well and using their skills to know when it's okay to run away, when it's okay to circumnavigate the situation and try to find a better way to sort of approach the encounter. And so for instance, say a rift opens up and a demon steps through, or some other kind of giant creature, some kind of otherworldly thing. You're not going to go toe-to-toe with that. You might have a mega damage weapon that's going to do a little bit of damage to it, but it's going to just then incite its ire against you. And so you want to try to find a way to maybe like seek out somebody who has magical talent that maybe can teleport the creature away or send it back to the rifts, exorcise it from this realm. You might try to find some secret knowledge that'll help you do those kind of things, or contain it, or you're going to go out and try to recruit other people to help you drive it away. Maybe it's decimating the farmlands, or killing towns full of people and stuff. There's a wealth of different ways to play an adventurer and play somebody who's not overly powered, who doesn't have these great psychic abilities, or isn't inside a giant robotic power armored suit. And I think that the Rift's world is so rife with adventure, and this is just in North America. I mean, you're talking, if you get some of the world expansion books, there's going to be tons and tons and tons of other adventure seeds and ideas out there that you can run these average. I want to call them average because they're above average people. City Rat might be your kind of average baseline, but all the rest of them are going to be very specialized in their training, but they're going to be ordinary humans. And I love playing an ordinary human against the overwhelming odds of what else is out there. So, with that said, I think that that's probably my favorite way to play Rifts, is to dive into it and use the kind of like the underdog, as it were, occupational character classes to run a Rifts campaign. If you have any questions or comments you'd like to leave them in the splat down below, and I will answer them as quickly as I can. And stay tuned for our kind of follow-up to this, in which I talk about my second favorite way to play Rifts, and that's by running it as a coalition player. So until next time, I'm Questwise, and we're out.